Okay. All right. I do believe that we are live on YouTube right now. There it is. Okay. I'm right. It's live. All right. So we're going to be keeping in touch with the chat. We got Don Simpson wandering around his kitchen, and we are here.
I'm cooking
He's
spaghetti.
right here. There he is. You're
I
cooking
got my
spaghetti?
60, I got my 63 button on.
Oh, here we go.
Let me
Still
show you.
available.
Let me start by showing you. This is the last piece of the puzzle.
All right.
Can
Well,
I
let's
show you
bring in
this?
its artist as well. The legendary one and only Dean Haspiel is here with us, among many other people backstage.
I'm no legend. Don Simpson's the legend.
Oh, wow.
He's 40 years older than us.
Jeez.
40. He's been doing
That's
this
a
for
lot.
40 years. I've been doing it for 4
I got my
minutes.
start. I got my
Wow.
start at Fiction House Comics. Can
Wait,
I
is
show
that a
this
real
image?
thing?
I think that you can share your screen, though I'm not 100% sure how you'll do that.
Let's try.
This is how Don wrote me into this book, man. He had
This
to
is the
draw my
liveness.
character and make me ink it. He bamboozled me. Actually, you know what's really weird? And while Don is looking for this image, to show how much
Well,
of a Luddite he really is,
I don't.
Email
I
it to
got
me really quickly.
inspired. I got inspired to write a Megaton Man Red Hook story that I've written 20 pages of right now.
Oh my God.
And so I don't know what to do with it. I have to send it to Don for him to, check it out and see how he responds. But
It's in iambic pentameter.
it's in beatnik
It's in Old
poetry
English.
style.
Can I
I got it,
present?
Don. Yeah, I got it. No, I
don't
got
think
it.
can
I
present.
got it. I'll add it really quickly. I am adding it to the overlay here.
So this was the last piece that I collared Dean at Ithacon, and we were sitting there. It was kind of had calmed down in the afternoon, and so I did this. This is a rarity in this project. This is an actual convention pinup. I didn't want to do convention pinups in this book. This is one of those projects. There's a lot of comics. I wanted comics. I wanted scenes. I wanted at least fake covers. So we have stories. We got comics and stories in this project. But this was the last thing I shaded this morning. And Dean inked it. And now, but this 20-page story is for Red Hook.
So wait a second. Before I get to the 20-page story, I was so intimidated. He's sitting there next to me at Ithacon, and he hands me this pencil drawing. I'm like, what the hell? This was incredible, number one. Number two, he then asked me to ink it. I was like, there's no way I'm inking this here. Even though he's sitting there doing his Sistine Chapel style drawing, and I'm like, why are you messing with me like that? Like, I thought I was on candid camera or something, But anyway, I said I would take it home. And then he starts telling me that, because we're both into Jack Kirby, he's like, ink it like Chick Stone or ink it like John Burke-Horton. Never mentions Joe Sinnott or Mike Royer ever, And then I realized I was so intimidated by inking him, which is right before your very eyes. I feel like I almost inked it like Joe Rubenstein. I don't know how or why, but it almost has a weird Joe Rubenstein style, which I love Joe. I've hung out with Joe. Sometimes I question some of his inking style, which is what I guess I'm questioning here is my own inking. But when you ink someone for the first time,
there are passages of John Veerporten. There are passages of Mickey DiMeo.
Oh my God, Mickey DiMeo.
Hey, look at this. We got Larry Martyr watching. Welcome, Larry Martyr here.
Hey, Larry Martyr. What crazy gizmo? What are we talking about here?
He's talking about YouTube's.
Oh,
put him on. Is he attending? Just watching?
He's watching on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, this inspired me. We had talked, I think, for about a year now. You'd been, I think you might have mentioned Multimensions to me last year. I don't remember.
Or
way before the pandemic, back in the 20th century. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Jeez Christ. Yeah, like I was going there with you, man. You were taking me to a place. But anyway, I was gonna maybe do a piece that was going to maybe make fun of or parody or satire psychoanalysis. That was an EC comic series that dealt with psychotherapy, and I wanted to do something between Megaton Man and the Red Hook, and I still actually have notes for that, Don. Grab me a drink while you're over there. Thanks. But anyway, I kind of abandoned that, and then more recently, I dusted off another idea, and I started adding Megaton Man and the Red Hook. So I actually am developing this. I've written this script that I haven't shown to Don or anybody, and maybe that'll be something that could be part of a sequel to this project. I don't know.
It's a Pirandello. It's a six characters in search of a scene, or 6 scenes in search of a character. Template number 475.
That's right. That's right. You must
And
think
we're
I'm
gonna
some
have-
kind of smarty pants, and you got me all wrong, man. You got me all wrong. I'm striving to be a blue collar cartoonist, and I just haven't gotten there yet.
So this was the last piece of the puzzle. 214 pages, over 175 of them are actual content. Then there's like text and me mouthing off and house ads and stuff. But yeah, this was the last piece. Alan Davis is way in the front of the book, and Dean is way in the back. We snuck you in.
As it should be. But also, what I like about this piece and a bunch of the other single image pieces is that even though there's not a whole story there, it denotes a story. Like you can imagine a story. It makes the reader do a little more work with this prompt, this visual prompt. But I like behind it.
What I like about it is I just drew the same figure. One doesn't have a head. I just put
That's true.
eyeballs on him and a slit. And he's like, it's the same figure. So
he's got a rib cage for a mouth. Psychoanalysis, Strange as Easy Comedy. Absolutely, man. Do you guys know this series? It was only like 2 volumes or 2 issues or something. I forget. Wait, Eli, you're we can't hear you.
That's because I'm muted. It is the one of the strangest post. Bill goes to the courts system. EC comics, right? Yeah, when they're trying not to do the killing.
But I think there's a lot of good Johnny Craig art in it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was Psychoanalysis that had this really strange scene Johnny Craig drew where guys are falling off a building, but they're bouncing off the building as they're falling and trying to do a dance and a pirouette. And I maybe I'm getting it wrong. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's worth seeking and checking out. So
were you there in the 50s? You were blacklisted, weren't you?
Listen, man, I was on the waterfront next to Terry, aka Brando, trying to get a job like everybody else, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly I'm calling shit out on a canary, a little canary tweeting a little too much, I could have been a contender.
He could have been. Stella. That's different.
Stella. Actually, that's a different movie, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Is that Streetcar? I don't know. I don't watch enough TCIM. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm honored and I love this piece. Thank you so much, Don and Eli. And I'm so excited that this book that almost didn't happen through Kickstarter had an Easter resurrection. That's right. Unbelievable.
That's right.
What a story. Unbelievable.
As the Jewish man in the background, I pulled all the strings I could. You know?
Did, man. And I'm quarter Jew, and I'm Jewish because I'm a New Yorker.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Come on.
Spring is the season of rebirth.
Absolutely. And thanks so much for coming by, Dean. I know you got a heart out.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah,
hey, thanks,
thank you so much. Say hi to everyone on Twitch for us.
Hi, Captain. Talk to you later, guys.
All right.
All right. Sweet. All right. So we're leaving the all right. So now we're going to bring in some of the other folks that are here with us, including most of the.
Get my ugly face off the.
Get your ugly face.
Put them on.
Everyone came for your ugly face. All right, let's bring in the rest of the editorial staff here. So we got Joe Ely Corrales. Better.
Hello.
All right.
Welcome
What's up,
from
Joe?
South Texas.
Hey, we got Trish.
Hi,
We
guys.
got Isaac, and we got Amanda.
Hello.
Here you
Good
go,
evening.
Trish.
These guys are all important because they formed my top secret editorial board,
Yes.
which is
We were not bored
unpaid.
at all.
Mostly listen to me bitch and moan during the
My
2024.
driver's giving you a headache.
You all right, Trish? Yeah. Geez, do we need to mute you?
She's having some technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
We got
I'm
it.
trying something different. Go figure.
All right, so we're here, and we're so happy that everyone's here and that we went live today. I'm excited, and guys, as you all know, I'm sure we're past $10,000 already. Like, let's let's hear it. 10,367. That's
Hi,
huge.
Amanda. I want to ask, how you feeling, Amanda?
Oh,
You've been-
better, thank you. There's
Good.
nothing like having a Kickstarter kick you out of being sick.
It's addictive, isn't it? It's like scratching off numbers or something.
Oh yes.
So Joe actually broke down into tears. Do we have video of that, Joe?
No, and
You can go to the video.
When we went live, we kept it a surprise. Well, last night, so we should talk about the content and the contributors, but last night we had a snag with our crowdfunder, and last night they changed their minds and we went ahead, but I was like 11:30 at night before I read the message, and I said, I've been up since 5, I'm going to bed. And then this morning we had some choices to make, and it all relied upon Eli, who's on the Pacific time and sleeping in on top of it. So I'm waiting until 1 in the afternoon.
Hey, I get up at 10. That's not really sleeping in, but
So
the first thing I did today was take a call from Don Simpson, though.
And then well, that's better than most people. Most people don't reply.
I thought about it, but I was like, I think we should do this.
And so then, and we went live, and we spammed everybody with the link, and here we are. So, and
Yeah,
Joe, where were you, Joe, when you found out the news?
Well, I was completely blindsided by the good news because I was administering the standardized test this morning and couldn't be on my phone or check computers. So I was like stuck in there. And so when the test ends, I send Don a message. I go, look, we're going to win this thing. I went into like full Patton MacArthur mode. I was just missing the pipe and the hat. and then he's all like, Joe, you need to calm down. And then he released this wonderful news that we were no longer on restriction. Now, let me tell you, all weekend, I've been like a locomotive with the train spinning on the tracks because I wanted to move this thing. I mean, all last week we did some recordings, we were releasing stuff, everything was going good, and then all of a sudden we kind of lost our traction for a bit there. But I will say this, and there is documented evidence to show this. I had faith in Eli the whole time. I must have told him that about 7 or 8. Actually, that was my way of coping. To go, Eli's going to save us. He's going to.
It was a lot of pressure, but hey, it worked, I guess.
Like if
No
anybody,
pressure, but pressure.
if he can't do it, nobody can. He's going to do it. I'm just going to. But that only like mollified me for a few minutes, and then I was back to okay, what we're going to do? All right, we're going to have to. We're going to have to muster the troops. We're going to have to, get this out. Here's what we're going to do. But now I feel relaxed and good about this. And after about 7 or 8 cups of coffee administering that test, I feel that I'm much more relaxed now.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
but this is great. Now we can really get going on this, and that's what I needed. So Slip Up is done, and we're gonna push this thing. So we, Don, Eli, we have other videos coming up. Oh, but first we have our other guests. So by all means.
I just
Allow
wanted
me
to point out I had my camera was mirrored, so the M was backwards, so I flipped it. Now you can read
Thank
it
God.
correctly, and you can
Oh,
read
that's an
Giant
M.
Size
I thought it was
63 correctly.
a mu.
All right, proceed. I can hear you. I have to run over and tend to my spaghetti. Just a second, but
Great
keep talking.
timing on the spaghetti too. All right, Isaac, let's talk to you for a second here. Tell us a little bit about what you did for the historical Kickstarter, I mean. And
Yeah, well, this is really cool. This is actually the first Kickstarter project that I've participated in. So I have to say, like, it is really interesting seeing, and I'm really amazed that day one we're a third of the way of a $30,000 goal. Eli, when I heard you and Don talking those numbers and thinking of like my ambitions to do a Kickstarter, I was like, oh, $5,000, something like that. 30,000, and look, it's going. So I think it's a testament to kind of the awesomeness of this project as well. Yeah, to give some context, I've known Don for the better part of a decade now, and haven't actually been doing so much comics in the past couple years while I was in grad school, and the timing couldn't have been better to kind of crawl out of the woodwork, submit a half-page strip, just a tiny morsel of the Multimensions, but a very cute one and endearing one at that. And just being part of this board has also been a lot of fun, and just even learning how indie comics creators can come together and create works that really bat their weight. So yeah, it's been awesome.
yes, absolutely. It's been cool. It's been great working with you as well. And so let's go over to Trish now. Let's hear a little bit about you, your amazing art. We can show it on the screen again. And I guess we could also start touring around the Kickstarter if we want to show off the page. We can bring in some of our other guests as well. But let's talk with Trish first.
Let me just say, Isaac, I know from Pittsburgh, he came to me. We hooked up as he wanted tutoring and cartooning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be making
Finishing
comics.
a degree in, what were you finishing your degree in at Pitt?
Anthropology.
Oh, wow.
So we met at the Carnegie Library in Oakland. Now he's in Peru. He's one of the is that a banned country, by the way? Did we check this out?
It depends how you spell Lima.
And then Trish, who's definitely from a banned country. She's from Canada.
Boy.
So,
That's right. That's right.
all right, I was interrupting. Proceed.
Darn Canadians.
Go ahead, Trish. Tell us about what you've been
So
up
what do
to
you
with the
wanna know?
Kickstarter. Well, I'm going to show you your piece here in a second.
What have I done?
So
Okay.
filibust till then, I guess.
There's not much to fill in.
Trish, talk
Yes,
about how you
first
met
of-
Joe. Talk about how you met Joe.
Oh my God.
Now that he's left us for a moment. That means you can be as honest
Well,
as you want.
I'm old and senile. I can't remember that far back.
Whoa. You're like the Egyptians. You see the Nile. You see Nile.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
And the Nile just
That's for
stares
Dawn.
back blankly. No,
Ooh.
it's funny. Joe and we actually just met randomly a few years ago. We were talking. We were in a similar group. I do believe it was Yeet Presents is where we first met one another, and then we got chatting. And then I remember I was doing Air Cadets here in Canada, which was similar to what do you call it in the States again? Civil patrol, or it's like I don't know, it's a thing for the kids by the military kind of sort of thing, and I participated with it and helped lead the kids here with our Air Cadets. And then Joe said he did it there, but the American version. So we got talking on that, and then we got talking more, expanding on our art, and then we found more common ground, and we just kept talking and talking. And of course, between me, a woman, and Joe, a Texan, we just never stopped talking. It was just like, So, and then we just got going, and then he's doing his comic book, and we talked about that over the years. And then he said, like, would you be interested in commissioning you? And I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be awesome. So it turned out Joe was actually my first comic book cover commission that I've done. I've done like children's books and illustrations and stuff, but comic books had always been my first love. But for whatever reason, my art got pulled into every other direction but comic books. So go figure. So Joe kind of helped reel me back into that, and from there I ended up here with the Multimensions project. Got a message from Don. We got chatting, and this is one of the pieces that I came up with. A little crazy. I figured when I read up on the characters, and I had heard of Don before, but I wasn't sure if I actually read a lot of his stuff, because when I was a kid growing up, I grew up in a small town here in New Brunswick in Canada, and there's no comic shop here. So of course, the only comics I could get was whatever I could find on the newsstands, which I would greedily go to and grab whatever I could find. But usually it was just mainstream stuff, so I didn't get much more than that. And it's only in recent years that I started hearing about independent comic creators and hearing about and then hearing about Don and hearing about like all sorts of guys. So I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of exciting. And then I read up on his characters and read the stories, and I was like, oh, these characters are actually so crazy. I love them. So I thought it was perfect. I said, well, his crazy kind of seemed to fit with my crazy. So I was like, I think this could be a good partnership.
Oh yeah.
I am comic books' best kept secret.
You
You
are.
didn't hear of
You
me
are.
in the past 40 years. You're hearing about me now. So the secret's out.
I know. Isn't
So
that
this
crazy?
started, I should mention, go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Trish.
don't even see. I'm so old. I don't even remember what I was going to say.
I was just going to say that this is an example of a contributor interpreting my characters. Trish is interpreting the Phantom Jungle Girl, the Brilliant Brain, who's just a brain inside a jar, and Cowboy Gorilla. And that's kind of how we started this project, was that everybody was going to interpret some of my obscure characters, not just Megaton Man, but all kinds of different characters. And then we started doing team ups, and we started the broadcast or the podcast or the live stream with Dean doing a crossover with Chestface. But so we liberalized it, and we had team ups with Joe and Amanda. We did not do a team up. We did Amanda did interpretations of my characters and some of my favorite stuff. Well, everything in this book is my favorite stuff, but that's how it kind of progressed from originally people were just going to do their interpretations of my characters, and then we started crossing over, and the idea of the multimensions is just alternate realities, and we got to do Bomber Babe soon.
Yes.
She's getting there. She's getting there. I'm actually working on a drawing for her right now, trying to get her story going. We're getting her launched, so she'll be there eventually. We'll do a Multimensions project again next year, and she'll be there.
Now, I should point out, Don, that for Bomber Babe, we already have several stories written and being scripted. Trish, you want to talk a little bit about what Peter, and all those and us have done?
Yeah, well, Peter Malmarink, he's a fella I partnered with with Joe. Like, Peter is doing all my writing for the story. We talked, and I told him what my premise was for the character, which is to fighter pilot. In actual history, there is no female fighter pilots. There were female pilots, yes, but not combat. So my history, the story of my character, she's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have just a few different things. There's going to be, like, I remember back in World War II, there was a the first like special forces kind of thing was created then, where they had Americans and Canadians together, and they became the first special forces. I forget what they're called, Joint Task Force or something. And I thought, well, we're going to do this with my character, but I love World War II planes. I love modern fighters. And I said, just kind of put two loves together. And so she's going to be an ace pilot, but this is going to end up being like a joint Air Force task, like a joint air task force. So that's what they're called. And it's going to be American, British, Canadian, whereas Bomber Babe is a Canadian pilot. So it's just going to be her adventures. She's going to have her nemesis, which is obviously going to be a Luftwaffe pilot. And they're going to get into some scripts there, but it's also a little twist. There's going to be a little bit of time traveling. So again, a little different take from actual history. So we're going to do some stuff like that. We got some stories. Like I said, Peter has nailed my ideas. He's just totally nailed them. And so I'm really happy, really excited with what he's been writing. So we're just waiting to get the first story going, and we're hoping, things done. And hopefully next year we'll have something to show, like a full finished comic. And then maybe Megaton Man can make an appearance. Like, hey guys.
So Trish, you
We're already talking about Joe and I. Oh,
Trish, I was going to ask you.
What was
You
that,
hadn't
Don?
done sequentials. I don't know if Eli can cue
No.
up the page, one of the pages from the Gower Goose Jerry Gander story. If he can't, I could do it. But
Yes, I
we
think
talked-
I'll try here.
Yeah,
As he's looking for that, Trisha's work is very detailed. Trish is a very meticulous and detailed artist.
That story.
I was thinking we could also
with that story, and that was my first sequential work.
maybe I should find. I'm gonna find a few things.
You find it. I'll talk about it. So
Okay,
Tom
somebody
wrote that
talk.
story.
Like I was
so Tom
saying,
wrote the story, and he emailed me, asked me if I would be interested in doing the sequentials for it. I ho and hummed about it because I'd never done sequentials before. So I thought, well, what better way to get my toes wet? So I said, sure, let's go for it. And so he sent me the story. I did the story, and actually Tom wrote it out. The way his writing style was, it seemed the easiest thing in the world to do the sequentials, just like bing, bang, boom. I could visualize it all perfectly. It was an interesting little crazy story, but I said, this is too much fun to pass up. But I didn't know if I'd be able to do justice to the colors, because I just thought, whatever. I did the inks, did my thing, and then I wasn't sure about what I was going to do for colors, and I didn't know if I was going to have time to do the colors. And then Amanda Powers, she stepped in. Yeah, you right there. I'm looking at you, Amanda. There you go. But she stepped in. She did the colors for this piece, and she got it. I think she nailed that feel that I was told it was about it. I was told it was kind of is Paul Nabisco, Don's character Paul Nabisco, and Gower Goose. And Gower Goose is a creation of Tom Nabisco's imagination. And I was told that Paul is kind of a his ideas sometimes came from drug-induced psychedelic craziness, and I find Amanda coloring captured that psychedelic aspect, and it just kind of nailed the whole idea that I think Tom was going for. So I'm thinking people are going to enjoy it. I hope they enjoy it. But it's like Don said, this is actually my first sequentials. It's the first time I've ever done sequentials.
Now look at the details in this. Look at the detailed work. The the attention to background images, the everything from the pizza to the clothes to the lines. Trish is a very, as I said earlier, a very meticulous and detailed artist.
Anything in particular you want to point out?
Well,
Yeah, Trish even likes to play around with her and troll into her drawings. Hey, Joe?
Yeah. Yes. Apparently, in keeping with the season, I am an Easter egg in here, and I appreciate
You
that. I'm very
are.
honored by that. You know, you've made it when you've made it into the comics in the background. Maybe in another 40 years, I could be in the foreground.
well, this is actually a collaboration. Amanda added so much to the background. So, Amanda, why don't you talk about how you where did the wallpaper and the pajama pattern come from?
Well, we had, first of all, working with Trish, Don, and Tom was fun to be able to be sorry, water going, to be able to work as a team together and just follow down the line, kind of like making a Ford vehicle but much prettier. That was such a great process, all the different personalities in a crunch time, because this piece came close to the end of our deadline for when everything was due. So we all felt the pressure, and that was like pressurized chicken. It came out super fried and perfect, and crispy. As you could see, it's super crispy. So drawing, I loved her drawings. I loved her perfect thin lines. I loved that she was meticulous, and I wanted to honor her line work, and the way that she paneled things with the colors by keeping it separating it through by separating the background from the foreground with the yellows and the purples. I felt like it needed something muted to host the psychedelic nature that she was talking about, and to give me an opportunity to I I'm so sorry. I'm not used to talking in
Can you
public.
go to the next page? Can you go to the next spread, Eli? Let's go.
Skull background and the bird background were put in there because he's just Paul Nabisco is a dark character. You're thinking about how he's probably living in like a Victorian house, and I thought maybe dark, deathly, and that's why he had skulls in the background. He's brooding, he's menacing, he's deep, he's questioning himself. You could see with the fist on his forehead on that in the top panel on the right hand side. He's not even sure how to take what he's going through and what Gower Goose has put him through. And the background, if you look close, are more like egrets instead of geese, because I kind of thought about how people tend to put birds on the wall. So, but they put really pretty flamingos, or they put something else, or if they put people up, they're going to be somebody from another era. So I thought perhaps the geese would put something pretty and flouncy up on the wall, so that it felt nice, elite, presidential, and so they could be either in the second panel, quirky, quacky self, right in the middle, and the highlight and the focus when we see them sitting on the desk together. It's so funny. I'm so sorry. You scroll down to the next panel. I just love them so much, the way that Trish showcases them in the space, sitting on the nest just so perfectly. And it just reminds me of any petitions, sitting, having a filibuster, or just sitting on their laurels. They're sitting on their pieces of their nest. That was very clever, Trish. So all the colors are just to enhance her line work and tell the story in a more interesting way. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that last panel, I mean, look at that. The eggs incubated, so many of them. I would hate if most politicians had that many offspring to start creating legacies and lineages to go forward, but look how happy they are. And I want to know, why do you have him leaning back in repose in the last part of the panel? Would you like to highlight
Well,
that?
Well, what I understood was that it was all a dream kind of thing, and then he was coming back to reality. So that's why I have the whole leaning back and that this is a dream and how it's all kind of fading out and going towards him. So it's like the crazy hallucinatory idea is finished, and he's just sitting back and enjoying the afterglow of his idea.
And the whole continent is sound asleep, and in the sleep, a grand nightmare is taking place. Lovely. I think the Don brought that one in the end. So Don and Tom worked together on parts of the script, and it just every bubble is just so funny.
Now
we should mention Ted Sikora did the lettering, which is really
Yes.
it off.
Yeah. Such a good job.
I was wondering if you could show one of Amanda's stories now.
Yes.
We haven't talked to her about that.
Now, as he's pulling that out.
Thank you, Joe.
This is the most political piece in Multimensions. And as you can see, we have only two subjects we don't discuss when it comes to politics: the left and the right. So it's friendly to both sides, or it hates on both sides, or it loves both sides. We have no prejudices here.
We are joined by Steve Rapelogle, by the way.
Political.
And we have a spare Canadian sitting at the top wondering what we mean by left and right. I'm just kidding.
No, we got our own left and rights. Don't you worry.
I prepared a little presentation.
Right now.
I'm sorry I got here a little bit late. I want to say something about what Amanda did in the coloring with Trisha's piece that just really struck me just a minute ago. The top of page 2, where it shows Paul Nabisco with his hand above his. That's in a way that's a really serious picture. It's by itself it could be a picture from some Ingmar Bergman comic, but what Amanda did was add this strange little background on the wallpaper and the stuff on the clothes that gives it just that weirdness that keeps it sort of strange and funny and not too serious. So it was really a lovely touch.
Did that with her colors throughout.
I'm sorry?
She did that with her colors throughout.
Yes.
My favorite was the last panel on the last page. Just the colors she used, and that is just, I don't know, it just did it for me. That was perfection. I loved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny when you color, you start with your flats, and then you're filling in the lines, and you're completely conscious of the artists and the writers. And then as you move through to the gradation and layers, you start to pull away from everything being exactly the same color. You want to give each panel its own tone. And finally, it was just so much fun to shade in the panel you're talking about, in particular around his shoulders, just to add for a little bit extra of a flicker of how distraught he's feeling in that moment. It just, the color should accentuate the inks. Color should accentuate the feeling in the words. Color should is employed to just harness every element and pull it together. And that was the goal. And I really felt it. When you feel the verb and you're going in there to color, you just you keep moving. It's kind of like a basketball player, or it's like Eli when he's troubleshooting all of us. Or it's like when Don's at the table for 16 hours straight, drawing his next book, X amount of comics, etc., everything, and just pushing it all out really quickly. You just feel it and you move and you live it and it becomes you. And I think this whole book, if I'm just going to say, the whole book was everybody feeling that verve, the tension, feeling the momentum forward, and truly enjoying and celebrating each other through the entire process over the last year. And it is reflected on every page. I am in awe, and I am in great appreciation for this. So thank you all, everybody who has worked on this.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Shout out to the chat there. Scattered Thoughts says it's super
Yeah.
dope. Micah Boozon, my animator, said these drawings look awesome. If anyone needs animation,
Woo!
hit them up.
Thank you.
All right, so we got your story here, Amanda, or
Oh.
your and Tom and Dawn.
Yes.
A
Exciting.
crossover fusion.
So I kept thinking of other ideas, what I wanted to throw in, what did I want to put in the mix, and I called Don up. Poor Don. Here, every once in a while, he receives a call from me, and he must dread it. What is she going to come up with this time? And I was at the polling stations because I'm a poll worker, election stuff, and I called him up
Oh,
because I was so
Poll
excited.
worker. Okay.
Oh yes, I am a poll worker. Got to work those polls. Somebody has to.
Oh my.
So after all that tension, being in a church on the mall, I went. I called Dawn up and was like, "Hey, so what about your Harry Potter stuff? I know about how you feel about J.K. Rowling." And then we started talking about what we could do and how it could come together. And after a few more conversations, we realized we can make something really ugly and really perfect and really beautiful and really supportive of LGBTQ initiatives and really putting how do I say this? J.K. Rowling on her stick.
Good.
And in her place. So please don't speak to the story.
Now this is actually, I think this is the third story that Amanda drew the artwork for and did the coloring. She also colored 2 other stories, but this is the last thing that she turned in. How old were you, Amanda, when you read Harry Potter?
Oh goodness, the second that it came out, I was at every one of those Barnes & Noble book signing. Well, no, she was never there, of course. But were you? Yeah, the parties. I think you were at some of those parties too, Don.
I was working part-time at a Borders Books in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, but I never worked a midnight party. But I'm pretty sure I was hired part-time because of that. I was hired, and I remember going around, and they gave me my name tag. Why don't you turn to the next page, Eli, if you can. We went around the store, and here's the local section, here's the dictionaries, here's the Bibles, and here's this thing called Harry Potter. I'd never heard of it before. And then a week later, I guess the fourth book came out, Goblet of Fire, and the entire store was green and gold.
Yeah.
And
Did we lose you?
and I knew how to pronounce. Are we back? I blinked out there for a minute.
You were
But
at.
how old were you? How old were you, Amanda? How old were you? Were you?
Well,
12?
I'm 37, so you can count backwards from where I'm at now. But teenager, the perfect age to read it. I was a dork. Oh my goodness, I'm still a dork.
How heartbroken? How heartbroken were you when J.K. Rowling started tweeting about all this stuff?
I was completely distraught from this. I had points at which I would just stop and think about it, and it was heartbreaking to think that the woman that could create such a loving environment that was meant to be accepting for anybody, no matter who they are, anybody could be part of this wonderful mystery. Anybody could be a witch or a wizard. Anybody could play a part, even if they don't have magical powers. You're just as important too. I made a gumball machine in woodworking shop and added a little scarf. Sorry, I just asked Tom to bring it to me.
Eli, can you zoom in? Can you zoom in on the rainbow panel on the bottom of the right-hand page? Can you zoom in on that? There we go.
I collected all of the
now these caricatures, this is not the most refined. I mean, they're kind of sketchy, but they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect likenesses of the characters. And So this was therapeutic for us. I think that's the point, is
Yeah.
that this was therapeutic to do a satire of, and Megaton Man is somehow involved in this. He magically goes to hogweed, and then me and Tom, Tom Powers, who is Amanda Stella Powers' partner, we got into this riff of doing early Genesis songs. So we had the Giant of Hogweed, and we had the Giant Hogweed, and we had Nursery Crimes and Cinema Show. All of these are references to Peter Gabriel era Genesis songs. Phil Collins and Tony Banks and the whole bunch of them.
Don, didn't you dare, when you revealed each page, somebody to figure out which songs were referred to, and somebody came up with all of them, and then somebody added even more that we didn't even realize?
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, well, yeah, I ended up adding. This is my lettering, by the way. So I added the lettering after the artwork, which was an interesting experience. I did that on a couple stories. Maybe we can, if we go back to the beginning of the book, like page 5 in the PDF, Eli, and this was a very early crucial turning point. This was 2024. We were putting this project together, this anthology of crossovers and interpretations. And when Amanda did this piece, this was a real turning point, because this was exactly what I was looking for. I didn't want just pinups of Megaton Man flexing his muscle. We have a few of those, and they're great, but we had enough of those, and I wanted people to dig into the weeds and go deep. And the peeper, the cosmic cue ball, the peeper is only appeared in the second issue of Megaton Man, 1985, February of 1985. But look at these different techniques that Amanda did. Did you do analog? Were you drawing on paper, or this was all digital?
Nope, I started on paper. On the second page, I played a little bit in the first panel and the third panel on paper. Then I added color everywhere else. I actually used a really early version of Photoshop for the very first page in the background, and then brought it onto my computer with a modern version of Photoshop. So I don't think I could get the effects to do and brushes to do quite what I did in there. But on the last page, I was drawing on actual paper and using charcoal and pencil and watercolor. And so the second panel is with the girl sitting on the crystal so delicately, looking at the eyeball that's being served on the plate.
The butt panel.
The butt panel.
Zoom in on that, Eli. Now, you drew this in pencil?
Please. Squeeze the button there.
This is like charcoal pencil and stuff?
Yep.
And the panel before it?
Let me think. That's on about 15 by 20 piece of paper. So I still have the original. And the one before it is on a much larger sheet of Arches watercolor paper. And I actually inverted the colors from the original. But both of these ideas are just coming from what would the cue ball see? What would he see when he's traveling? Who would he see? What creatures are there? What happens to him before he meets Megaton Man? What is this wonderful orb doing? This wonderful, clear, perfectly shiny surfaced orb with a little red tail going to do? Where is he going? And I felt that he needed, we can use that word psychedelic again. The cosmic cue ball felt like a he, and he felt like he needed to trip. And I just love it. You have to wonder how he would have what he could have done to them if, as everybody here knows, what the cue ball ended up doing to Megaton Man in the end. But I greatly enjoy this. He gave me 2 choices. It was between this and I'm afraid I forget the second character. Don, do you remember? Oh, well, I was
Not
just
at all.
excited. What could I do with a beautiful little white ball?
It was a year ago. But this was like exactly what I had in mind, and I added the lettering over it. It's hand lettering over it, and we segue right next to Amanda. And I put these into the layout, and they just kind of fell right next to each other. There's the Improbable Girl and Wonder Kitty.
Now, we don't have to get too into the weeds on this one because we have a associated video that you guys can tune in for that one. Because I think it
That's
would be
right.
good to bring in some of the other creators we have waiting in the wings. If you
We do.
Yeah.
But
Can you believe it, Don?
But the difference is Terry S. Wood is totally digital on the Catfight page, next to Amanda doing analog. It's just a beautiful contrast. Thank you, Amanda. We'll
Thank you
talk.
so
you.
much.
We'll try to talk about Squeaky a little bit later.
Alrighty. Okay, so Don, who would you like to bring in next? Let's
What are my options?
All right. Well, we have with us right now. Well, we could just go in order. We could go with Tom Stazer next, if you'd like.
Oh, I'm not speaking to him. We haven't
Oh.
spoken in years.
Well, then maybe right now
No,
is the perfect time.
Bring Tom in.
All right, let's bring Tom in.
How's he doing?
Good. I'm going to drop some of the editorial staff to make Tom and you bigger. Not drop, but just put in the green room to talk to later.
Tom, I used to see
Sure.
all the time down at the Dallas Fantasy Fair.
Sure. And, I was in Pittsburgh before you, but, I went to the Ivy School of Art in Pittsburgh, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow.
Long decrepit, but,
so what have you been up to?
I'm working on some more space. I've got a short space story I'm going to put out there. On some of it's on my blog at this point, but you really threw me a challenge, because like Cowboy Gorilla, he's easy to draw, and all these things that are so exciting to draw, and you gave me a human. So it's like you really challenged me, because I don't draw people that well.
I love your females, and I love your
great.
I love space, and I loved what you did with Jenny from Border Worlds, and I was delighted to have. I mean, the title of this project, the full title of this project, is Megaton Man, Multimensions, Don Simpson's Comics and Stories, blah blah blah, Bizarre Heroes. So it's mostly Megaton Man, Bizarre Heroes, but I'm delighted to have Border Worlds represented, and you and John Burkett, who can't be here tonight, did stories with Border Worlds, and that's near and dear to my heart, because that was
It's beautiful work. I remember seeing your original pages at a convention in probably Dallas, and if you remember Anthony Smith, we were both like, "Oh my God, it's the next Frazetta or somebody." I mean, we knew you were going to be a major force in comics. I wish you were more major, because your work is brilliant, and I don't follow comics anymore because they're all like underwear guys beating each other up, and Superman looks really mean and pissed off all the time now.
You've outgrown comics, Tom?
I've outgrown mainstream comics, absolutely, yeah. But your beautiful stuff, and all the stuff I got in the 80s and 90s. I mean, Yummy Fur, and it was just a tremendous time in comics to get individual creators presenting beautiful, just transcendental work. I'm glad to be a part of that. So thanks for giving me another, a later.
Well, this is what's interesting about this is that it's in full color. We were in the black and white. We were in this black and white movement.
Yes, absolutely.
Megaton Man had been full color. I did 10 issues of Megaton Man. It was a full color Baxter paper comic book, kitchen sink press. I talk about this elsewhere, but the Spirit was in color, and Death Rattle which was an odd choice to make a color comic.
Mhm.
But I started in full color, and I started Border Worlds in issue 6 of Megaton Man as a backup feature. But then I got religion because we were very fundamentalist about black and white. So we had black and white. You mentioned Anthony Smith, Alien Fire. That was another black
Another
and white.
excellent project. Yes, I would love to see it finished. Yeah.
Eric Vincent.
Yes.
They should kickstart that. They should do a crowdfunding and
I,
do
I'm still in touch with Anthony. Eric is he's a tough guy to work with sometimes, but his work is just phenomenal. And
Well,
they've
he's
told
so
me for years
he's so
about
detailed.
oh
Well,
God,
I worked with both of those guys recently. We did the In Pictopia reprint with Fantagraphics,
yes,
and
yes.
Anthony still had the color in his files, and he had the Alan Moore script.
I didn't
So
know
I've
that.
been in touch with Anthony, and I've been in touch with Eric. But getting
Excellent.
back to Spaced, what are you doing? You sent me a PDF of Spaced. Are you going to be compiling?
I don't know. I've got to look at my finances. I'm recently retired. I would love to put the 400 plus page completely spaced volume into actual print and deliver print volumes of it. Right now, I'm kind of casually, generously sharing the PDF with people who are interested. But I haven't really done the research yet to see just how much it would cost to get a physical version. This is what I really want.
Now tell me how you work this up. There was really very little input from me on this story. You did the script, you did the coloring. You work completely digital now?
No, I work in pencil for the actual panels, and then I scan them in, and then I use a program called Clip Studio to do my inking. It can actually wonderfully recreate the 104 mapping nib that Paul Martin Smith taught me to use, and so I can get really good thick and fine lines with it at the same time. Then it goes into Illustrator, and I add type and balloons and such. Then I go back into Photoshop with the images from Clip Studio, add some tonality, and kind of using some cheap backgrounds right now. I'm kind of just fuzzy backgrounds, but it's just meant for public consumption. If I ever print the completely spaced volume, I will include it, of course. There's incompletely spaced. There's a 16 pager that I colored for the volume that never was printed in color. That's really worth looking at. But well, what can I say? I'll see if I get a print volume out, I'll share it with all your friends.
Well, let me just say that the only thing I added, I think I might have given you a couple remarks.
There were, yeah.
But the only thing I added was the title, Border Crossing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Border Crossing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And plugged it into the book. Can we flip? I don't know if Eli's there. If he can scroll to
There's
the
two
next
more pages.
page.
Yeah,
2 more pages.
there you go.
And
They're kind of dark. I don't usually work this dark, but Border Worlds was such an impressive chiaroscuro, black and white book. I felt like I wanted to bring some of the darkness to it.
and you had to focus on the drinking and the carousing and the
well, of course,
and
that's my life. That's what I know. Yeah, you got to work with what you know.
And what planet are we on?
I have no idea. No, it's just somewhere where we both ended up in an unknown universe, a multiverse somewhere, where there was a bar and they served drinks.
So tell us about the blue character, Lip.
Well, Lip that's the one that represents me when I write space. That's my personal character. I'm just a wise ass who likes to remark on things that are stupid, and that's kind of the part Lip plays. Originally, I mean, I was probably 15 when I invented Spaced and Lip, and I won't say I was taking a page from Von Baudet's Cobalt 90 when I designed it. very, very, very simplistic face that has a lot of expression. So Von Baudet was a huge influence on Spaced originally. The earliest drawings I did were in his kind of pictographic, presentation. But anyhow, yeah, he's my personal. He's what I would be if I was stuck in that situation. That's how I would react. Kill the monster, kill the alien. Don't open things you're not supposed to open. Just go out in space and be cool. So
Now you created Space, but you worked with somebody writing scripts or writing dialogues.
yeah, my
for you?
friend John Williams. I'm still in touch with John. Originally, Space started as just a one-pager in a locally published book called Comic Informer. And when Anthony Smith gave me the chance to expand it into a full book, I looked to my friend John, who had a very similar sense of humor. And yes, John Williams he created a lot of the wonderful moments in Spaced. So he deserves due credit. Some of the best lines for Potato Head, if you remember him, and I think issue number 5, came from John. He had the whole idea of him talking sort of doo-wop and such like that. So yeah, I'm still in touch with John, and he approves the collected version, so we're all good.
Very good. I'm delighted that you were able to be a part of this, and I think
Me too. Absolutely, this is
turned out
wonderful.
great.
And especially we've gotten through all the Kickstarter issues. Yikes! But no, I'm delighted to be part of it. I've enjoyed all your books. I may haven't read them in a few years. They're all in my file cabinets. But no, Don, you've been an inspiration here. You're really
Well, I
a
miss those Dallas Fantasy Fairs. I miss
yeah, it would have been Dallas.
That was the best regular annual show.
That was probably the year I went there and I bought myself a nice sports coat, and I'm shaking hands with everybody trying to pitch Ed the Grocer, and the price tag was still on the. I don't think I impressed anybody.
But yeah, we all miss Larry Langford. It was a great show, and it was interesting. That was an interesting show because there was also a strong science fiction element.
There was yes, Ray Harryhausen was there, and I got to meet him probably the second time I met Ray Harryhausen. But yes, the sci-fi element was strong. Yeah.
Yeah, this was my.
Well, I should let you go for some other contributors.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and
I'm happy to be part of this. This is wonderful. Oh yeah, as things move on, you'll hit your goal in no time, I'm sure.
Thank so you, much, Tom. And you should definitely be packaging Spaced. 400 pages, you say?
400 plus. I think it's 412. Yeah.
If you need any help, I'm happy to help you, man. Reach out to me. Yeah.
Okay. I will keep your connection. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do guest pinups and.
Yep. I did one Kickstarter or an Indiegogo project that worked for me. So yeah, I could maybe do Completely Spaced. It's a big thing.
Be sweet.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
No, that's it. I'm good.
All right. See, have a good day. All right. Just want to shout out to Alex, who's in the chat there. Alex Mui's popping in to say hi. He's out of town for a con and visiting a friend in the hospital, so not able to join the call. But shout out to Alex.
Hey, Alex. Can we show his story real quick?
Sure. You know what page that one's on, or?
That's a good question.
Well, we'll do that. Say shout out to Brunson, who's in the chat. You can check out CosmicLionProductions.com and his book Ghostman. And the new one, which I won't even say. He knows why. I'm going to mess it up. Bone Crusher. I probably said it.
It's on page 106, which is going to be like page...
Bone Grinder. I'm sorry. I say it wrong every time. Brunson, sorry. Bone Grinder. All right, sorry. What page did you say?
100 and it's on page 56 of the PDF, so it's on
56 of the PDF, so right before this story here. This one.
let's see. Did we?
Oh, that's Steve.
We'll look at the page.
The spread 56. The spread 56.
Yeah, it's spread 56.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. So this was Alex's page, and I ran into Alex. Where did I run into him? Baltimore or Charlotte? I think it was Baltimore. So he was kind of a late ad too, because that would have been like maybe September, October. And so we've got his. He's got several IP here: Shifter School and Medium. Medium is the little blue-haired character. And he's got Simon, the son of Megaton Man, the little blonde-haired boy, and he's swiping the Megaton Man #1 cover. Is a pretty good job there, actually.
Yeah.
So this is a 2-page adventure crossover. Well, we're sorry that Alex can't be with us, but we'll talk to him on a video at some point, because not only does he do cartooning and comics, but he's also done a thorough investigation of the history of conventions, including the Dallas Fantasy Fair, and the Dallas Fantasy Fair was one of the first American cons to have anime and folk singing. I don't know if that was the first, but
folk singing. Interesting.
Folk singing.
What's that?
It was a very strange convention. I loved it. It was a great. I missed the 80s. I missed that show in the 80s more than anything else.
Sounds good.
Larry Martyr met Roger Zelazny there.
That's a good one.
Well, I used to see Larry at every show from 1985 till my whole 12 years in comics. I saw Larry at every show. Miss you, buddy. Tales of the Bean World. Can we show Tales of the Bean World?
Yeah, let's do that.
That is on page. That is on toward the end. It's on
toward the end.
Page,
we're getting messages from people saying from Joe saying that we just passed 11 grand on the Kickstarter. That's huge.
If you go to spread 63.
Spread 63. There we go.
Speaking of the Cosmic Cue Ball, and I dug these out. This is a deep cut. I went to my sketchbook, and this was probably the Dallas Fantasy Fair or something. Where was this? This was.
Wow. It does say Dallas 88, I think.
Yeah. So these were two sketches Larry did, and he did that in full color pencil. And it's very prescient because the Cosmic Cue Ball, his character Profi is riding the Cosmic Cue Ball. And that was very prescient for this project because the Cosmic Cue Ball figures in throughout this project. And
it's perfect.
So I repurposed these old sketches, and then Steve Bissett right next door from the same sketchbook did his interpretation of the Flug thing, which is actually a character from, I think, issue 6, Megaton Man #6. So we have the historical context, and we have contemporary artists like Alex Mui, and we have everybody in between. So
perfect.
And those hoops and sticks and stars and triangles later congeal into weapons or tools or something in Bean World.
Perfect. Hey, we got this comment here. James of Cyborg. Sorry to interrupt you there. James of Cyborg 1 in Doylestown just picked up the project at the retailer level. Thank you so much.
Cool. Excellent. Give us shelf space. That was the thing in the 80s. Give us some shelf space. And the little jelly beans in the grass in the foreground, they are the little pods for the next generation. And I think we are living in that next generation right now, Larry.
Oh,
Four realities. Oh, is that the stars and the hoops and the sticks and the triangles? The four realities. You talk
all right.
about you talk about a multi-mention. You
Oh my
Tales
God.
of the Bean World is a real trip.
Absolutely.
Way ahead of its time.
Alrighty, let's bring in our next creator and chat a little bit about theirs. We've got Robert Kroll coming up next. Robert, how's it going? What is he reading?
He's reading the Red Hook. Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Hi,
So
Robert.
what spread are we at for his book, for his story again?
Let's see. We pages
Looks like page 52, which would
All
be
right.
spread. There's math involved in that, but I don't have it ready. All right, almost there. We're giving away some great previews of some amazing stories. Here we go.
Okay, yeah, that's one I drew.
Oh, that he read though? Yeah. You're muted, bud. You're muted, Robert.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Don. And
Hey,
yes,
Robert, I just saw
shameless
you up
plug
in
for-
Dearborn.
Yeah, great time too. Very happy to be able to meet up and talk for a little bit and grab some dinner.
So we do an extensive video discussion of this, don't we? Or
Yeah,
did
we do. When I was out west for a little bit, but yeah, like,
But this was Robert. Robert is an expert on scholar on Orson Welles, and he wrote a script that dug deep into the Shakespearean films of Orson Welles, most of which I haven't seen. I've seen his more Hollywood, his the Third Man, and well, that's a British production. I saw the Touch of Evil, and I've seen Citizen Kane, Magnificent Ambersons. I thought I'd
Yeah.
seen a lot of Orson Welles movies, but
yeah, you didn't travel 6 hours up to the northern Michigan to see a single screening of Chimes at Midnight at the Traverse
Wow.
City Film Festival. Yeah.
wow, that must have been something.
It was an incredible restoration, and his daughter Beatrice was in attendance. So, like, yeah, I'll go to that.
So I made use. Well, I don't know if Beatrice knows, but I made use of Orson's likeness in the early Megaton Man comics. I had him be the president of the United States, and here we kill him off.
Yeah, and
He buys it.
Great way.
So talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I basically dumbed down what Robert did. Robert wrote this in very deep script, and I dumbed it down, and I substituted my own characters for Joseph Cotton and Marlena Dietrich.
Dumbed it down. I think he actually made it intelligible for readers.
And who's the butler in Citizen Kane? I can never remember.
Oh my, what? It's
Stewart, Paul Stewart.
Paul Stewart. Yeah, I was gonna say Paul. Like, dang.
Preston Percy Preston Percy does double duty. But
Yeah.
again, the cosmic cue ball, and this was a lot of fun. But we so Robert, you've looked through the PDF. You looked through.
Yeah.
What are your cinematic eye? What are some of the features that stand out to you in Megaton Man Multimensions? Is there a particular story or character that you're excited to see, or artist?
I even
Putting you on the spot.
I posted about it for myself a moment ago, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. I know I don't want to sound like a Pollyanna or anything. It was like this is a lot of fun to be amongst the groupie to be able to do something like this. I was, of course, the little 90s X-Men nerd in me really happy about Alan Davis, but it's seeing Megaton Man with the likes of Night Watchman, Joe's characters, Wonder Kitty, and Improbable Girl, because I've known about those characters from Yeet for so long. Yeet Presents, shout out Mike Jones.
Eli, can we go to page 1? The Alan Davis, and Robert can dissect the I don't know, Eli went to feed his cat.
Oh, well,
I'm here. Sorry. What'd you ask?
Can you go to the Alan Davis page 1 right at the beginning?
Sure can.
And Robert is going to lead us through a cinematic excursus.
Well,
what do you like about this? What is
I'll go Citizen Kane for a second. We've got the low angle looking up at them, projecting images of power here. And yeah, slightly looking down at us, but we're looking up at them, a la moments in the moments at any one of Kane's newspapers, and knowing that he's the one really in charge and that he'll go out of business in 60 years if he keeps losing $1 million a year. So we're looking at just looking from down, seeing above, they're towering over us, just like Charles Foster Kane or Harry Foster Lime will be in your stories as well.
Were you an Alan Davis fan, an Excalibur fan back in the day, or?
It was sometimes hard to get it, because much like Trish, that was her story about growing up in a small town. That cut a little deep for me, because sometimes getting those indie books was not easy, and even coming across your stuff when I did growing up, that was I consider that a small miracle at time, looking back now. But yeah, once in a while I could grab an Excalibur and like, oh cool, I really like this guy.
Yeah, I liked Alan Davis's stuff on the Avengers, which is I think the first thing I'd seen, and
Yeah.
Of course Batman and the Outsiders. Can we zoom in on the Brilliant Brain and Jerry Lewis at the bottom of the panel there? I mean, that's are you an aficionado of the cinema of Jerry Lewis? Are you a Francophile?
Not nearly as much as my master's essay. Shout out Steve Shaviro. But boy, that I do enjoy me some Jerry Lewis. Not as much as Arthur Bell. Sadly, don't judge me, please.
I was back in the mid '80s, early '80s, when I was doing the early issues of Megaton Man. I didn't watch television. We always just went to the movies, art houses, and in Ann Arbor and Detroit and Grosse Pointe and so forth. And Orson Welles, Hitchcock, and Jerry Lewis was, even in those days, he was still kind of not really liked by the critics in America. And people, he was adored in France. He was still doing the telethon. He was kind of this irascible public figure that you either loved him or hated him.
Right.
And it wasn't until like maybe the late '80s and Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons and Martin Scorsese kind of rehabilitated Jerry Lewis. He was on he was in the Fall Guy, or he was not the Wise Guy, or what was the TV show Wise Guy, I think it was.
I think you're right.
He was slowly, by the end of his life, Jerry Lewis was more highly regarded in America and more adored. And you have people like Martin Short and Jerry Seinfeld and people acknowledging his influence. But in the mid '80s, when I was doing the early issues of Megaton Man, he was still kind of like, I don't know what he was. It was a real litmus test. If you were a Jerry Lewis fan, you could be a serious cinematic cinephile. You could, be into Ernst Lubitsch and D.W. Griffith, but Jerry Lewis, even The Nutty Professor, which was regarded as his best piece of work, it was still controversial. I remember going to the Detroit Film Theater at the Detroit Institute of Arts, and they ran The Nutty Professor, and there was like 10 people.
Oh.
Otherwise, the place would be packed. They would be packed for the latest Truffaut or the latest Godard film or Fellini.
I would never have thought the Nutty Professor at the DIA. That's all right.
And they ran it in 16 millimeter too, which was kind of disappointing because I guess because the expected attendance did not justify getting a 35 millimeter print.
But still, that place is so big. But yeah, this would
Yeah.
have Megaton Man would have just started when King of Comedy came out too, wouldn't it? I think it was around the same time.
Right. Scorsese and De Niro and Jerry Langford, the King of Comedy. What a great film that's ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten better with age, and I have a morbid fascination with someday seeing the day the clown cried or laughed or whatever it is. Like
the day the clown cried. Has that ever been? Yeah. I guess it's available. You can go to the Library of Congress and see it.
Right, and
that's really in the weeds. I'm sorry?
Oh yeah, I was at the Library of Congress right around the time they might have gotten a copy of that, but when I was working on the Wells book.
Any other features that stand out?
There's a parody literally right before, getting out of the weeds. There's a parody right before my story that I was very happy to read, with a certain feetless. Oh, sorry, I said that out loud. The quiet part out loud. A certain creator in there that I rightfully needing to get a couple jabs in there. I'm happy to see Border Worlds as well. Michigan again, aptly represented with Night Watchman. Yeah,
well, that's Chris Ecker is from Chicago.
I always associate with with Michigan. I think I know Caliber did it for a little bit, and I was associated with that.
Oh, right. You are.
Yeah, Cloudgate, the bean.
Can you go to page 11? And we should probably just talk about this briefly, which is, there we go. Because not that Robert has anything to do with this story, but Chris and I had talked about doing a team up probably longer than the Giant Size 63 project. I mean, that goes back to 2014 when I was talking to Steve Bissett about doing a 1963 annual Eli. And I think 2012 is when I started talking to Chris about a Night Watchman team up. And we were thinking like a full length comic. We were kind of getting bogged down in like, there should be like 3 pages in your dimension, and then there should be 3 pages in my dimension, and then they should cross over. And it's like, well, we didn't have time to do it. But so we condensed it all down to just like the characters just run into each other. Night Watchman and Megaton Man, they've known each other. We don't explain anything. That was what I was after. And we finally did it. I had forgotten that Big Bang was a Caliber press. That was Gary Reed in Livonia, which is my home city in the suburban Detroit. The late Gary Reed published Big Bang. I've forgotten about that.
and where I'm kind of going to school as well right now.
Oh yeah, really? What are you doing in Laverne?
Online classes through Schoolcraft.
Okay.
Yeah.
We used to call that Haggerty High. Schoolcraft College was a community college on Haggerty Road.
Yeah.
And I graduated from Stevenson High School on 6 Mile.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a plan for college, you went to Haggerty High. That was kind of the. But I'm sure you're getting a fine education there.
Hey, I've got a better job now because of them. So shout out again, Schoolcraft. Shout out Haggerty High. Love you guys.
Beautiful. All right. Well.
All right. Cool.
Hey,
all right, we can get
Robert.
to the next. Yeah. Thank you so much, Robert.
Guys, thank you for having me, and thank you. Not just this, but the book. Thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. All right, dude. Well, I'll take you out here. Thanks again for stopping by. See you in the movies, I guess.
Funny papers.
All right, let's get someone that we haven't talked to that we don't have another video for. So let's chat with Scott Lost.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, fellas?
How's it going, Scott?
Hey, Scott.
It's going excellent. Yeah, excellent.
All righty, let's figure out what spread you're on here.
Yeah, that Alan Davis piece is just killer.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start the book.
And it was also one of the last things to come in, I think. But last but not least.
Yeah, yeah.
X amount of comics heroes meets, where is it? Second Shift, right? I'm looking at my table of contents here.
So am I, yeah. I remember it was kind of towards the back a little. This is.
So what have you been doing, Scott? I saw you in Anaheim a month or 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was great. It was great meeting you. I'm down in San Diego, so I was like, I got to make it up there. Don's not on the West Coast very often, so take the opportunity, drive up there and hang out. And it was a great time, man. Like, it was great meeting you. It was great hanging out with Steve Whistler Jr. was there, and Howard Chaykin and a bunch of other guys. Alex Grand was there. So yeah. It's a good time.
Did I get to meet you there as well? I was right there next to him.
No, you weren't there yet.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I was. I think I went Saturday, and I think you were showing up Sunday. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Don mentioned, and I was like, oh, that sucks. Like that would have been cool to meet him and just like chop it up with you about the project and everything, and just kind of how it all is going. That's a great piece too. I love that one.
Kind of getting a jump through here.
It's on page 85.
85. Spread 85.
Spread 45.
45.
Spread 45, next to John McCrae.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, you and Steve Whistler were there. We got a mega dose of Howard Chaykin.
That was very fun.
Yeah, he's a fun guy, man. He's very cool. Very interesting. Great storyteller.
Yeah.
Not only in the comics but in real life. Yeah, it was a good.
Knows how to use the F word, I'll say, pretty well.
Oh yeah,
perfectly
punctuated. Yeah, like exactly where it needs to be.
So Scott, you got involved. I think you got involved with our previous editor in chief.
Yeah.
And how did you gravitate? These are obviously Second Shift is your intellectual property. And how did you gravitate to the X amount heroes?
Well, I was told to, like a lot of people were already doing Megaton Man, so stay away from Megaton Man, and try to use other characters. I was like, oh, that's easy enough. I had just read, X amount of comics, 1963. So I was like, oh,
Did I forbid people to do any more Megaton Man, or was I just kind of suggesting? Or
it was more of a suggestion, I think. I don't know that it was an order from anyone, but maybe it was.
I was pretty strong on that for a while. I was kind of worried that we weren't going to get enough coverage, but I'm glad that I'm glad I could persuade you to do the X amount characters. Did you you read the 2023 paperback?
I read the annual, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just read it. So when the note was, "Hey, if you could not use Megaton Man, that would be great because we have like a lot of people using it." I was like, "That's not a problem for me." It's like I got a lot of cool characters to choose from, and I was like, "Hey, what about this character? No one's using it. What about this character? No one's using them." So I was happy with the cast that I got, and I was going for like the most interesting looking ones, like just like their personalities as well, like a combination of the visual looks and just their personalities were really fun.
Now this is a very clever cover. The
Oh,
image
thank
on
you.
the right, because
Yeah,
and it was so clever that I didn't even know that it was part of the story because I didn't recognize it. It's like just a bunch of floating rocks, and it's not until the next page that
yeah,
you realize that the floating rocks are one of the characters.
yeah, Moonrock. Yeah, I remember you
I don't even.
emailing me. You were like, I just realized that was Moonrock, and I think we were, going back and forth for some time as well. So it was kind of fun that I was like, oh, he just got it. Okay, cool. So hopefully people get it eventually.
So tell us about Second Shift.
Second Shift is minimum wage superheroes. The storyline, that's kind of like the elevator pitch I give people at conventions. And, it's a superhero book. And the thing with superhero books is if you want a superhero book, you go to the big two. That's usually how it goes. You want your Marvel, you want your DC, Batman, Spider-Man, whatever. So selling at conventions as a complete unknown to most is really difficult. So the best way to do it is find a good elevator pitch, something that'll grab their attention. The thing that I discovered, I've been doing this for a baker's dozen year now. Just when I started, like it took forever to do my first book. And then like it legit took 3 years to finish my first book. So, which is crazy. But I was a pro wrestler for 10 years. So I was a little out of practice. So when I was a kid, I drew all the time. So going back, retiring from pro wrestling and then drawing comics, it was like a transition. So I really had to kind of figure it out. And my writer as well, he was also a wrestler. So we were like, we read comic books our whole life. I was drawing comics up until I was 20. Then that's when I started wrestling. Personally, I was drawing comics. And so it was kind of like trying to figure it out again. Like, okay, how do we do this? And anyway, fast forward, doing conventions for so long, you realize like if you hit them with the elevator pitch, there's this light in their eyes, like minimum wage superheroes. You get excited about that. What does that mean? Your imagination runs wild. It's kind of like the Clone Wars, right? Before the Clone Wars movies came out, when Obi-Wan talks about the Clone Wars, you're like, whoa, was there like clones of Yoda? Like, what does that mean? What is Clone Wars? And then, you fast forward, they do the Clone Wars movies. It kind of takes that away. You're like, that's not what I was expecting. My imagination was so much more. So when I mention minimum wage superheroes, they get really excited. And then when I break the story down more, it's like, well, they have minimum wage jobs and they superhero at night and this and that. And the more I talked about it, like I still thought it was fun and interesting, but then, it was like a 50-50 proposition at shows. It was just like, well, I thought it was this. And then so they kind of get you less enthused. Whereas other people are like, oh, okay, that still sounds pretty cool. And they pick it up. So, but yeah, this particular story, the way they're traveling through dimensions is it just so happened I was doing Second Shift Doorways, which is a 2-part storyline that leads into this bigger thing. But they face off this against this character called Dr. Doorway, and he has the ability to open up portals to other dimensions. And me and Steve Whistler Jr., Steve contacted you about using Megaton Man in the crossover because Second Shift was jumping through a bunch of dimensions, and you gracefully let us use him for a 1-page pinup, which is super cool. And when this project came up, I was like, let's hit him up and see if I can get onto the book, and then use that storyline to go into the X amounts world or whatever world we were going to play in. And so we got the permission to do the story. So initially it was short. It was just like, can we get 4 pages? And like, okay, well, I guess that's okay. So I didn't want to push any more than that, and so we used the 4 pages. I came up with this story, just kind of like in the same vein as the 1963 annual, and it was really fun to do, and I'm really happy with how it came out.
Eli, are you there? Can you move to the next spread? Eli's
He's feeding his cat
chatting.
again.
Yeah, he's feeding his cat again. I'm interested in your process. So you said the first issue that you did was 3 years. Were you working on paper?
Yeah, back
Eli,
then I was.
Can you scroll to the next spread? There we go. We have, and Eli, if you could jump to the PDF spread 91. And because that shows, it's an interesting page where you explain your process. Now you I'm sorry, you started working on paper. Here
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have,
it was all traditional back in the day. So when I drew, that was 2010. The iPads, they didn't have the ability, they didn't have a stylus yet. They didn't have the Apple Pencil. So what was around was the Cintiqs and stuff, and I didn't have the money for that. So plus, like all of my heroes drew on paper, and like to me, that was kind of like at that time, I never thought I could draw a whole comic book on a Cintiq on a digital platform. But I knew that's where the coloring and the lettering could be done. So I would do everything traditionally. And yeah, I would go through, I'd get my scripts from my writer. And like I said, he was also a pro wrestler. We were figuring it out. So he was actually writing in prose form. So he would just write the whole story out, and I would read it, and I would print the scripts out, and I would do the thumbnails as I was reading it, because I would get a visualization. I was like, oh, this looks like this in my head. So I would just do a little thumbnail, and then I would kind of compile the panels together on the paper. And then after I think 3 or 4 issues of that, maybe even 5, I was like, dude, you gotta figure out how to break this down per page, because when you do it in that process, I was ending up with issues that were 28 pages long. And I'm like, dude, I'm slow. I'm slow as I'll get out. So I need like 22 to 24 pages. Like we need a max at 24. I can't do this, because now I'll have to take all those thumbnails I did and like trim the fat. Like I have to get rid of pages. I got to get rid of panels and stuff and rearrange things. And, that's like, I'm slow enough as it is. We don't need these extra steps. So he figured out how to actually form a comic script. And then that's worked so much better for us. But then this particular one, it was all me, with notes from you and some guidance from you. But I kind of work Marvel method most of the time. So like just kind of how Jack did it. Like Stan gives him a couple of lines, hey, maybe do a story about this, and then Jack just goes. So that's kind of how I do it. I'll thumbnail it, and in my head, I know what's going on, but I don't necessarily know verbatim what they're saying. But I know roughly what they're saying. And I'm like, okay, they're talking about this. Like this is what's going on. And then in the story, there's this, you'll hopefully people will notice, well, it was real quick, but there is an enemy approaching throughout the whole 4 pages. And it's just like looming in the background, and they're having a conversation, so no one really notices until page 4. And so that was like the gag of it. And a lot of your work it's so balanced with like beautiful art, like introspective, retrospective stuff, and humor. And it's just like this nice balance. And I was trying to emulate that the best I could, but in my voice. It's like we spent quite a few hours at the convention with each other. So I'm a bit of a smart ass as well. So I was like, well, I want to put that in there in like the way I do it. And there was like a couple of jokes that I wrote, and like, I don't think you got my joke. And I was like, hey, we're just going to leave that one, and I was like, I know, like reading enough of your books, I know your style humor. And I was like, I don't think he gets my style humor. So I'm going to leave mine in there, and hopefully someone else gets it. So.
Can Eli, can we zoom in on the top row of little thumbnails up there? Because this was you're the only contributor that gave me some text on your process. So we did a page here. We're actually, Eli might want to comment. We've got a whole PDF of process that is available as an add-on. And this was
very nice.
basically basically for the benefit of Jim Rugg. He wants to see process. So we got like pencils and thumbnail sketches, and I don't know. Does this stuff also appear in the PDF, Eli?
It can, yes. We can get it bigger and we can show a little bit more of the process. And if you back at the "this rug ties the room together" level, which is the Jim Rug level,
Nice.
I'm gonna actually print out and hand assemble the process zine for those people that go in at that level. But otherwise, you can get it digitally as an add-on.
That's very cool.
So we do have some process, some early thumbnails, and Scott talks about his process. Now this row of 1873 we're looking at, and you mentioned that I gave you some feedback. It's mostly the word you're looking for is interference.
No, one
Messing
thing
with
that
you.
was one thing that was great was you have this massive survey you sent to all of us, very detail oriented, very Dawn in my mind. But you were very clear as to say, do you want no interference or no guidance, some guidance, way too much, please leave me alone. So like something along those lines, right?
We were early on. We were grasping at straws.
Yeah, and I picked middle. I was like, I got an idea, and if
Well,
I give him too much rain, then maybe it won't be my idea at the end. But I love to learn, so I was like, I'm very curious as what he has to say, and like what he can tell me that will improve what I'm doing. And like I told you this at the convention, there was the way I do word bubbles. It's very modern, where the word bubbles cover the art. Like to me, it's not that big of a deal. I won't put the word bubbles over something that's important, but you were like, hey, if you do this, this will be much more clear. And it was a matter of butting the bubbles up against the frame of the panels. And like it was such an improvement. Like the page looks so much more clean and clear. And it's something that I will carry over in certain instances. It's like, yeah, this definitely needs that style of word ballooning.
What is the do you remember what the 1873 referred to?
Yeah, it was, was it 30 years? How many years was it? It was something.
That's a very deep trivia question.
Yeah, yeah. From
Understand.
1963. Yeah. So it was like the anniversary of that, and yeah, 30 years.
So it's 90 years before 1963. It's the Old West.
Yeah.
Now here's if we could go back to your finished pages, what I really found interesting about your and there was humor in the dialogue. These are kind of wisecracking characters, and they're obviously the second shift characters have a rapport between them, and the girls are ragging on the guys, and the guys are cutting each other and stuff. But what I liked about your approach was that it was so straight. I mean, this is like as you mentioned, a Marvel or DC comic. This is like a superhero.
Yeah,
almost humorless, like just like I wouldn't think to do something like this. This is like so like this is like a very straightforward superhero comic book.
Yeah,
But
when you got 4 pages to work with, it's you know, you can only do so much. And I'm not the type of creator that wants to jam more panels in a page than I normally would just because I have limited amounts of pages. Like it's like, well, there's a way to figure this out in 4 pages, like where you don't need to overburden yourself, let alone the reader. Like, well, I have 8 pages worth of shit I got to do, so we're gonna jam it into 4. It's like, no, you got 4, figure it out, be smart.
But I mean, it's like so straight that it's almost funny because it's so serious. And what I really when this thing really came to life, talk about your colorist, because the colorist just really, I mean, when I saw this in flat coloring over the summer, and then all of a sudden you turned in the shaded pages, and it was like that was another major moment in this project for me because it really brought it to life.
Yeah.
Not just the glowing, but just the textures. It just really came to life. So talk about your collaboration with Joaquin. Is that right?
Joaquin.
Joaquin.
Joaquin Pereira. Yeah, we've been working together for 13 years now, or maybe like 11, because I was still in the process of drawing everything. And so by the third year, when I was starting to wrap things up, I was able to find him. There was this old website. It had a very strange name. I can't even remember what it was called, but that's where you found colorists. And one of my friends who was a colorist for Image Comics at the time, he's the one that was like, "What's your budget?" And he goes, "Okay, go to this website. Just be real clear what your intentions are, what you need, and what your budget is. And then whoever applies, at least they'll be in the loop as to what you can afford, and you go from there." Joaquin was the only one that was any kind of good. Like every time I got a submission, I was like, I can color better than that. And I'm like mentally, I'm like, I'm not the person that goes, I'm better than that guy. I'm better than that guy. It's just like, no, I can definitely color better than this. This isn't good. This isn't good coloring. But Joaquin, I felt like he had a link to his DeviantArt page, a little flashback there. And his work was fantastic. It was like head and shoulders above everybody else. And like he was doing pro level work. And like like my first trade, the first few pages of it, they're not this, because we were still trying to figure each other out. And like that's the great thing about when you start working with someone for such a long period of time, your guys' work start to blend really well into each other, and you kind of become one unit. And that's like the goal with my art all the time. It's just like, okay, I want to make sure the lettering component looks good. I'm trying to become a jack of all trades and do everything and like be proficient at it to where, people go, that looks professional level. And so, even to this day, me and Joaquin are still tightening the bolts, and we're just like tweaking. I'm like, well, hey, what about this? And so we've kind of developed, even since these pages, there's more of a development of our work together. So I just love his stuff so much. Like you said, it really brings my pages together. For the most part, I'm a very open-lined artist. So there's a lot of open space, a lot of interpretation for the colorist. And, Joaquin just makes stuff hum. Like I'll get variant covers for my books, and I'll send it to him. And I've had some crazy stuff, like some really detailed stuff. And I was like, you got any ideas? And he goes, not yet. I'll let you know. And then he'll send me something back, and it is this amazing piece of work. And I'm just like, what did you do? Like you said you didn't have an idea what happened. And every once in a while we'll talk, we'll video chat. He's in Argentina, so we just kind of pick the right time, and so we'll just kind of catch up. Not only is he my colorist, but he's also my friend. So we'll
we forgot to mention Argentina. Oh no.
We gotta start it over.
Now I'm just noticing, I swear to God, I'm just noticing on page 89, in the distant background, you have a far right of the page, you have a little
cowboy
guy on horseback. What is this tied into something? Where did they?
Yeah, that was one of your notes.
This is another graphic novel.
Yeah, you're like, hey, we need to see something else besides the date to let people know, what era this is. And I was like, dude, the art's done. Like, and so I was like, what can I do? And then so in actually a few pages, I think page 1, 2, I think 3 out of the 4 pages has a cowboy in it somewhere. That same cowboy, and like he actually he notices the cactus looming, and it's like getting closer, and like you could barely see it, but there's these, those cartoony lines over his head, like, huh? And there you go. And so, he notices the cactus is moving. And then, so by page 4, he's hauling butt out of there. He's just like, this is, not for me.
If we go to the next page, the Megaton Man pinup, you've published that in a
Yes.
collection or a comic book, right? You have
Yeah, Second Shift Doorways. So this was the first thing. So I mentioned this earlier in the conversation. When Steve Whistler contacted you, it was to get permission for this. And this is an interesting thing. So I've been doing my books for a while, and Steve, is a fan of them, and which is great because he's a longtime comic fan. He's my friend as well, but he started backing the books as a friend. It's like, oh, I love comics and he's my friend, so I'm gonna start reading them. And he's like, I actually, the first issue was just like supporting, and he goes, but the story kept getting better and better and better, and so like I'm a fan of the book. And I started doing on the back covers, I started doing public domain characters teaming up with Second Shift. And I'm like, hey, this will be fun. It's kind of like, I need another page for the back. I got nothing for the back. What can I do? I'll do a team up. And, like for me, it was like, oh, this makes my characters, not that they weren't real to me, but it made them feel more real. It was like, hey, they're teaming up with, this character and that character. And Steve is a huge public domain fan. And funny enough, he reached out to the Big Bang guys and mentioned like, hey, would it be okay to do this one-page team up thing on the back? And they gave us permission. And he hit me up and he goes, hey, I hope you don't mind, but I got permission, yada yada. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I hope that's okay. And I was like, dude, that's more than okay. This is super awesome. And so and I was like, go ahead and keep doing it. And so he just started contacting more and more people to use for that back page team up. And so much to the point where I was like, it was like, dude, you got like 13 of them. I am not fast. Like I'm going to be drawing these back page team ups until I'm 50. And so I'm like, I need to figure out something like to kind of reset the clock. And I had the idea for this villain anyway. It's needed for this upcoming storyline. And I'm like, perfect. Like I'm going to use all those one-page team ups as them jumping through portals to other dimensions. And then, so that's how we got Second Shift Megaton Man team up here.
So you and Steve have the pro wrestling thing. Now he was the
referee.
He was a referee, and you were in the ring. You were
yes, sir.
wrestler.
Yeah, and he's so much taller than me too, so that's like upsetting. It's like I wish I had his height. Like,
what region of the country? You were pretty much west of the Rockies, type of thing.
SoCal, Southern California. So, but I wrestled all over the place. I wrestled in Japan, Mexico, Europe. So, but primarily I was in California.
Because the interesting thing is that Bobby Pisker, Bobby Potter is what he went by. He was a referee.
This is Ed's brother, yeah.
Ed Pisker, his younger brother.
Yeah, Ed would mention him on the.
Wondered if you'd ever crossed paths with Bobby Potter.
No, I think he was primarily reffing out on the East Coast. I'd wrestle out on the East Coast once in a while, but not enough to know a lot of the refs or even the other wrestlers by name. There was one guy that I knew by name, one of the refs by name, but not Bobby. So, but I would remember Ed talking about him on Cartoonist Kayfabe all the time, and I was like, oh, that was cool. Like it was cool having that, like connection, like comics and wrestling. It's like it doesn't always go back and forth. Like there are more wrestling fans that are also comic fans as opposed to comic fans who also like wrestling as opposed to wrestling fans who like comics. There's not a ton of wrestling fans who like comic books. So it's always cool when you hear, and it's just, to me, it makes the most sense in the world. It's like, yeah, both things are guys in spandex, like fighting, like that, good guys and bad guys fighting. Like it's like a natural crossover in my mind.
Well, your Second Shift has you say it has a wrestling ethos.
Yeah, one of the characters, he's essentially me. The guy up there, the snake guy. So he is basically me as a late teen, going into early 20s. It's just like he loved comics and wrestling, and he does wrestling in his fighting sometimes, and it's just I like to make it all work together. As one piece, and the best way to write something is write what you know. And so, yeah, it's easy to write wrestling and choreograph fights and those things, so it all translates over.
Now this page we're looking at, we I suggested that you move the word balloons around quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, this
Now,
was another one.
Did you printed this in the doorways? Did that have the same balloons, or did it have just the artwork?
It had the previous balloons. So when you asked me to change it, it already had been printed. So this is a slightly different printing of this particular page.
I
So,
did the
but
same thing. It's funny because I did the same thing to Kerry Callan on the next page on the right. I had him like
Mhm.
the second balloon that says "and you." It's like move it over a little bit. No, you're covering a brick. Can you move it back? Like literally, I thought he would kill me. I literally
yeah,
thought, and he's like, no, I work. He
Eli,
says,
can you move it up a couple of page to like maybe page 1 and 2, if that's okay,
did we do?
or even right here
But
actually.
this was
Oh yeah,
my
all those are
creative
really good.
contribution. My creative contribution was bossing people around about where to put the freaking word balloons.
Yeah, so you
This is
can
all I
see
can do.
there.
I'm
That's
a
that's all
crabby
Don
old
right
man.
there in page 1 with the word bubbles being nice and tucked, and just creating as much space as possible. Like the way I had it before was over the gutters. For me, it's not that big of a deal. Like mentally, I didn't even think about it because a lot of that's how modern comics are. They just do that. But this style, like after it was cleaned up, I was like, that looks so much better. Like it reads well. You can tell where each word bubble is supposed to be going to. There was a lot of overlap, so I could see how that could be more confusing. But yeah, it just looks so much tighter and just nice.
Well, it came out, and if you don't care about it, you wouldn't split hairs over
Yeah, for
silly
sure.
stuff.
I was happy to do it.
I didn't
I'm one of the
realize Steve was
funniest
here
people in the
too.
world. After me, you can work for anybody.
I didn't realize Steve was here too. You were saying you were working with him. I'm gonna add
Yeah,
him
he is in
and
the
you
chat.
guys can chat. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this
Hey,
guy.
Steve.
How many beers in are you in, buddy?
2, but they're 7 points. So
Jesus
enjoy
Christ.
that.
All right.
Nice to see you again, Steve.
Absolutely.
Wait a second. I didn't bring any of this with me to Anaheim.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, it's the Megaton beer.
I should have brought
Yeah,
this.
I
We
know.
had
I would have loved one of those.
this was
things.
New Dimension Comics, Three Rivers Comic Con. They do a beer label every year, and they do a microbrew. I
Yeah, I
don't
remember
drink.
you.
I've never even tasted this yet. I've got a whole tray of this stuff in
I remember you
house.
posted that online. I was like, how do I
right.
get one of those?
Yeah, send that out.
Can we go to Steve's story with Milton Knight Jr.?
Milton Knight,
So tell
yes.
me, Steve, how do you know? We just discussed how you know Scott,
I know
and
Scott forever, yeah. Forever-ish.
and he did he did your portrait in the bios.
I think
Let's
I
see,
appear. I appear in Second Shift issue 10. Is that correct?
It is 10, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, I drew Steve in the issue. He actually did not get murdered. He was supposed to get murdered in that scene, but I let him live.
Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
can show up again. This is my first appearance as in issue 10.
Haunting my dreams and my pages.
Eli, if you can go to spread 28.
Oh, he's already there.
I think it's there. Yeah, that looks like my page.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, great. So, you guys, Steve Whistler Jr. and Milton Knight Jr. I didn't realize we had 2 juniors on this story. You guys dug deep into splitting image.
Yes. Yeah, because
how did we come up with this?
Well, I kind of snuck in on Scott Shue.
The
way I kind of snuck in on this project, because I asked I suggested that you could give you permission for you to use that.
I've already
pinup.
forgotten what I said or did.
I gave permission. I asked if you want to use the pinup, your previous producer of this project, and then you said yes. And then I kind of said, well, would it be okay if I submitted something? And I don't think you exactly knew who I was when at that point, but you said yes. So then I submitted a script. And I think your note was I don't. I mean, the script was like a PSA type parody, and I think I won't go through what the script was, but your note was that's okay, but I don't think eye scraping is funny. I was like, okay. I like that note in and of itself. Like,
I have peculiar taste, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think I used Brett Liefeld as kind of like a secondary gag with
Whoa,
your
lifeguard. You're muted now, Steve.
Yeah, you miss.
You're muted.
Now, how do you know Milton?
Milton's kind of a fan. I'm sorry, a friend, kind of over the internet. I've been kind of communicating him on and off. So I've been kind of looking to do something with him. So the minute this project I was like, I think I took the initiative to ask him first, offered to pay him first, and then just hope that you said yes. so I had artwork in the can, just hoping that I could just get their approval. So yeah, right at the bat.
Is Amanda still on the call?
And I can hop off. It was great. It was great talking with you guys.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much.
Great having you on, and we'll be talking soon. And
see you, Scott. You
Amanda is no longer on.
Amanda did the coloring on this.
It's definitely.
We should have. Get Scott back here because we want to go back to that bottom panel.
I think he wanted to watch the Laker game.
I think he left. Left.
Yeah. He jumped off very specifically. Very strategic.
We have a big gun character in the lower left panel.
Blood choke.
I think that's another piece of Scott Loss art.
I think he's keeping on the down low, but yeah. He doesn't want to get any backlash.
Yeah, you didn't hear that from us.
Yes.
So how do you think this turned out?
I love it. I've been wanting to have something to do with Milton. So when this project came up, I was like, I want to do something. And as you rejected the first idea, and you recommend. I think there was a slight gag on the end that mentioned Brat Lifeguard, and you recommended doing the commercial, the Spike Lee commercial. So I was like. I was like, it sucks that you said no to my idea that I already had written. But that is a good idea. That is funny. Like, so it's like, I went back and watched the commercial and came up with it that way.
And you tied in Yarn Man. Were you a reader? Were you a reader of Hero Illustrated back in the day?
I was, yeah. If I couldn't get a Wizard, I picked up Hero.
Somebody once likened Wizard to Penthouse magazine, and Hero Illustrated was like Hustler.
It was Hustler, yeah, or Screw magazine.
These were the books you read because you couldn't. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, it's
Frank Kurtz, the editor of Hero. Frank Kurtz, the editor of Hero Illustrated, actually described the two magazines in something like those terms, I think, in those days. Anyway, so that's a pretty deep cut that you went to Yarnblood, because Yarnblood only appeared in a Hero Illustrated cartoon that I did, Megaton Man, and of course Brat Lifeguard only appered in Splitting Image.
Splitting Image, yeah, I love that book. I'm a Megaton man first. That's how I discovered it. I think I've talked about this, where my first experience with Megaton Man was seeing it on a button on a pen that went in like a used bookstore that I guess jumped onto the comic book wave, and they'd have like a big felt and had all these different pens, and it was New Mutants, and it was Excalibur, and it was Megaton Man. And it was like, so clearly Megaton Man is a big deal because he has merch, and that was how my child brain worked. And that's when
Pin back. Do you remember which pin it was?
It may have been the X-Men parody one. I mean, there was a couple of them, but that's the one the X-Men parody one I think stuck in my head.
There was a set of 6 pins Kevin Eastman was actually wearing one of the X-Men pins when I met
Oh,
him.
that's fun.
But so merch,
Yeah,
seeing merch made it real for you. This is a
yeah,
real comic.
that's how it made sense. That like this is a book that I should already have known. Like that's
Like-
how my brain worked.
Giant Size 63 has got a cloisonne pin, so it must be a real thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's important. That was a newfangled thing in those days. Pinbacks. Well, that was kitchen sink stock in trade.
Yeah.
And where did you get the at the end we wrote the chiseled autographs, $500. I think I added all that stuff, but you're kind of making a dig at one of the image founders.
Oh, just indiscriminately, you may interpret it that way. There may be a specific image founder who may or may not enjoy drawing feet that may conclude to that. Make your own interpretations. I will not deny nor confirm anything.
This is really this is almost as complicated. You jammed a lot into 2 pages. We got Yarn Man, we got Brat Lifeguard, we've got Spike Lee. There's a lot of levels here.
Thank you.
It's multi levels here, and Amanda does such a brilliant job with the coloring. I think it really complemented.
I love that's what I think is great about the collaborative, because I gave no notes on the coloring, so I get no credit. But and it's not what I would have asked, and I like that because it came back. I was like, wow, that's not what I was thinking, but that's perfect. Like it gives it an extra level of energy that I think it needed, but it wasn't in my process. I think there's also this is one, there's some chicken fat in here where there's extra little jokes kind of in the background of stuff. I think there's a Robert Crumb reference in there, someone in there.
Well, thank you so much. The piece turned out really well. It was great meeting you a couple months ago in Anaheim.
Yeah, and it was really great for you to allow me to be a part of this. I can't thank you enough. And you've allowed me to kind of chew your ear off and at Anaheim, so I appreciate that so much. I don't want to take any more else's time, but I'm overjoyed. I'm a huge fan. This is such a great moment for me.
You going back to the basketball game now?
Scott's watching basketball, but I allow you to move on to talk to other people. But I will.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Eli, can I take a little break and you can maybe chat with some of your friends there? I don't know who you have lined up.
Yeah, sure. You got the spaghetti there.
I'm going to black out for just a moment.
All right, no problem. Take it out. Let's see, who should we talk to? I guess Nick's been in here for a minute. I don't know why my screen is black there. Let's remove Don for a second so he can make his spaghetti. All right, and I'll remove Steve. I'm sure you guys are happy I'm narrating everything. We'll bring Joe in because he can help, and we'll bring Nick in.
Oh, hey.
All right, Nick. Justice. How's it going, guy?
Good. Hello.
How's it going, Nick?
Good.
All right, so tell us a little bit about how you got involved with this project, and then as you're doing so, I'll find your pages. We'll talk about.
Okay. I was asked by Craig Olson, writer of our story, if I would like to participate in our mutual fans of Don's, and I didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere.
Well, that's pretty cool. So what was your story about? Yeah, what's your story about?
It's about a zombie Megaton man, and some of the bizarre heroes. I threw in one of my characters in the background in a panel.
Nice.
Oh, I don't even know where it appears in the book. Where is?
I think it's on page 99, I believe. And I'm just going, my computer's being a little slow.
Yeah,
It's
you're
running out of battery.
glitchy, coming in and out.
Joe, you're muted. But you gotta, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glitching.
said you're
Because-
doing the Max Headroom thing.
Yeah. I see Craig's actually in the chat as well, the writer.
Yeah, bring him on in.
Okay.
So, what did you
He's like,
find
"Hey,
most
Nick, I'm here
challenging
too."
about doing these characters in the zombie form?
What's up, guys?
Referencing. Oh, hey, Craig.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yes.
Sorry to get in here late.
No worries.
No problem.
I think I'm getting there when I
Joe.
can, but
Hey, Joe, what was the question you asked?
Oh, the question was, what did you find most challenging about adapting the character likenesses? Like, for example, I was trying in my version to try to interpret Don's aesthetics through my aesthetics and make them work. What did you find most challenging about that, or did you just go forth?
Adapting Don's aesthetics to my art style, definitely. I agree.
Yeah, because I think
tried to do.
that's one of the coolest things about the entire Multimensions project is examining the characters through the different lenses. So here we have Eli has brought up the images. So walk us through it.
Craig, are you there?
You want me to take that, Nick? Or yeah, can you guys hear?
Yes, please.
It's a bit of delay. So basically,
Okay.
so I'd kind of written this thinking, kind of a spoof on The Walking Dead and Robert Kirkman being an Image partner. And as we all know, Don Simpson did the Splitting Image series, but we never got to see him spoof Kirkman because, Kirkman wasn't a partner back then. So I was thinking of kind of multi-mentions and, what kind of different timelines could have happened with Megaton Man, and why not cross like a zombie epidemic with Megaton Man and at the same time kind of do a Splitting Image spoof and look through, like try to convey it through how Dawn would probably do like a Splitting Image and have Robert Kirkman as one of the Image partners. So, we're kind of spoofing on Walking Dead, and then as you get through the comic, the spoof goes into Invincible, and just little kind of in jokes about that, and just having fun with it. And we had some thumbnail sketches and showed them to Nick, and Nick really brought it to life. And I mean, I couldn't have asked for more. I mean, he exactly what I wanted to see on the page and what I was picturing in my mind is what Nick produced, and it looks awesome.
I really like the coloring that all the orange and fire with the blue highlights of, for example, there with the Megaton Man is somewhat existentially dreadful, but also aesthetic to look at. How many characters?
Yeah, the funny thing, I
go ahead.
Yeah, and I didn't have fire in my script, and that was something Nick added in, and I think you're right. It just brings that dread, like the zombies kind of destroying everything, and that the whole city's on fire kind of look, and makes everything pop because of those bright colors in the background. It was just a good storytelling choice by Nick.
I like the slick in those two panels swinging in the background. Little things like that. I like that. Rubber Brother.
Yeah, can we zoom in on that? Let's take a look at it, because what I really found amazing in this, other than the tank, because I love tanks, tanks for the memories. But what particularly did you find most? Did you have most you were most proud of in this that you really want the readers to focus on?
I'll let you take that, Nick.
Okay. I wanted people to see that I was a fan of Don's work, because I was going back and looking at a lot of Bizarre Heroes issues, basically, and thinking, what would Don do, maybe? So, and we went back and forth quite a bit with Don on things, and
yeah,
but
and I think from my end, I wanted to get as many characters on the page, as possible, the Bizarre Heroes. And that's one thing Don does, like with his Bizarre Hero comics, is there's just so many characters. There's so much to look at. And it's a lot for an artist. And Nick just hit it out of the park with, I gave him a bunch of characters that I wanted on there. He managed to fit them all in on panel without overcrowding it. And I loved it. I think when I looked through this book, this story probably is one that has the most kind of varied characters in it, which that's something I'm proud of, and super happy with the way, Nick drew it up.
Hey guys.
Don's back.
Hey Don.
Don,
Nice to meet you, Nick. Craig,
Nice to meet you.
we haven't spoken like this before, so nice to meet you.
Sorry,
I was curious about how I recall the earliest drafts of the story, and the slick was there was a lot of TV screens and news stories.
Yeah,
and,
it was too bogged down, and we
well,
talked about that.
And I made the suggestion, just look, all right, that's great. That's what a writer does. They want to explain how did we get there, but then it's like, oh, just cut to the put it outdoors and have everybody fighting. Now, Raven Perez was going to be the artist, and I guess I took too long or something. But what did you work with, Nick? Did you see anything that Raven had drawn?
Raven provided 4 or 5 pages of really loose thumbnails that I took, basic little layouts. I used those, integrated those into my layouts and pencils for a few of the pages. And a couple of the other pages were totally just me winging it.
Well, I can recognize some of the poses that you. I can recognize some of the poses that you swipe from Bizarre Heroes. There's like an asp.
Yeah.
She's doing a karate chop somewhere. Like I remember that pose and stuff. Now, as this thing unfolded, I said, "Why don't you just keep going?" I gave you a 2-page spread. You ad-libbed Maury the Maple Leaf, which is like the deepest cut in the book, probably.
I think Craig suggested that.
I wanted to get Maury on there, and at first it was just one panel, and then Nick came up with kind of, I think, moving him along the panels. Is
This
that
little
correct? I
leaf
can't remember.
blower.
Yeah, I had
Eli,
to
I
get
think
him on there though, but Nick worked his magic for making him move.
And you tied in the Color Dot Corporation. We had to explain it.
I when the idea of Multimensions came out, and this is when we were talking about in the beginning, I tried to give so much background in the beginning that it kind of bogged it down, but I really wanted to kind of inform the reader of how this is a different dimension where, like, things are a little bit different. I think you were right, Don, about like cutting all that out, getting it works perfect now. We don't need all that, setup. But in my mind, I was just having fun of like, trying to flesh it out and think of how things would be different. And in my initial story, which we changed, I had, the Slick's always kind of a guy that's second guessing himself. He's very unsure of himself, he's got imposter syndrome, I think, if you read the way, the Bizarre Heroes books. And I wanted to make this Multimension with him more of like a charismatic guy. You know, it's a different dimension. Something changed, and he's, you know, and that's how I started the story, and then basically cut that out, that beginning part. But that's how it went. It was like a couple of months of just kind of fleshing it out, talking to you know, kind of setting us on the right path, and the story just evolved from there.
Believe me, I overwrite reams and reams, and then I'm like, I don't want to letter this. Because I hand letter this stuff, and it's like I'm not gonna put all this stuff on the page.
Yeah.
So, but let me ask you something. Now, you work with Mark Dale, who really saturated Nick's. I mean, Nick, when Nick started, I think Nick turned everything in about a week or something like that. He was really fast.
It was amazingly fast.
And
I couldn't believe it. I thought it was going to take, you know, as a writer, you're impatient. You want to see your words get turned into stuff. And it's like, oh, am I going to have to wait a week to see this? Like, and it's like the next day I'd get a new page. I'd be like, holy crap. Like, I was just not expecting it.
Hey, when you get in the zone, that self-actualization just pushes you through.
So tell me about the character holding the staff in the top center panel there.
Oh, the Serpent Handler. That's a creator-owned character of mine and a friend of mine, Dave Potosnak from New Jersey. He works at a comic shop part-time there, and we hooked up and created this character, and crowdfunded a 64-page black and white comic through Kickstarter.
Okay.
And it's a sci-fi Masters of the Universe heavy metal mashup romp, an excuse to draw something crazy.
And you've got Maury the Maple Leaf is filtered in all these panels.
Yep. I don't think I put him in the spread panel, but across the top 6.
No, he's in there. He's right near Miss Megaton Man.
Oh, okay. Yep. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Now, if you, Craig, you've only done a couple. You did the Eric Larson thing.
Yeah,
this is your second credit.
Yeah, and Nick and I worked on the Eric Larson thing together. And
let me give you a little advice. If you pitch something to Marvel or DC, don't tear the arm off the character. They probably
He's a zombie.
They probably won't let you do that.
No. And this is a multi-mention, right? So
some lawyer will tell you that you can't do that to Batman.
Don, but this is a very hands-off approach.
That's it. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
I'm here all week, folks.
Yeah, they're all week. Oh my Lord. Well, this turned out great, and I hope you're proud of it. And hopefully, what do you got next, Craig? What are you gonna?
I don't know.
What's your third thing? The third one is the hardest. What's the next?
I mean, I've just done both of these as fanboys and as fun projects. The Eric Larson project was started with a bunch of us just kind of doing kind of a fanboy type zine. We showed it to Eric and he wanted to publish it. So that turned out great. And then, I took my chance and threw something out there when you were, looking for stuff. It's a fun hobby. I love writing. I love reading. So we'll see if there's something in the future. I think maybe I should just keep pumping away and writing things and see where it goes.
I think it was Eric that told me don't call Robert Kirkman Bobby.
Yeah, no, I've heard that.
I don't expect
too.
He's not going to hire me either. So.
Well, what I tried to do with this, and I don't know if it came across this way, and I was just telling the guys before you jumped on, I was like, I wanted to do my version of Splitting Image and include Robert Kirkman since he never got bashed during the Splitting Image thing, and now he's an Image partner. So I kind of tried to do my take on what a spoof on Robert Kirkman would be like. Since this was a Don Simpson type project, I thought it would kind of fit well like that.
Well, this is What I like about this is this is an example of something that would never occur to me. Not only because I was before Kirkman and I've never read The Invincibles or Walking Dead. I live in Pittsburgh, and here in town, George Romero, we kind of think Walking Dead was a ripoff of
Yeah.
Romero, even though I guess they were on good terms or whatever. But this is an example of something that I would never do a zombie story. So if we go to series, we'll do a Cosmic Line might want to do a zombie Megaton Man series.
Yeah, so
If you guys are available, I don't know.
these are pilot
Could be
episodes,
big
Don?
demand. Yeah, well, Maury the Maple Leaf and the Serpent Handler. There's a team up right there. $1 million idea. Have you listened to this, Eli? Serpent Handler meets Maury the Maple Leaf.
I love Don, your note, and we used it for the next issue. I forget what I had, but it wasn't anything as funny as next dawn of the day after the night of the living dead or Drek.
Yeah, that's worthy.
That was
right
great.
Kind of a well, I've never understood, and this has mystified me, why Night of the Living Dead, why Dawn of the, it should have been Dawn of the Living Dead. I don't know why that never happened. But Living Dead should have been the brand. I've never understood that.
I don't know.
You're really into this stuff. You're into all this. Because I always thought Kirkman, all he did was just take Day of the Dead and go into character-driven stories, I suppose. I'm sure it's great, but I don't, there's massive numbers of things that I don't.
Yeah, it's just more of a long form story, I guess, than just a 2-hour flick,
Well, there's always like I said, the world building draw of this event that takes place, and then how it's seen from all these different angles, and how you can examine the same basic scene from somebody else. So if you did go to series on something like this, bi-weekly 22-page stories, you'd have, it's basically the same day from 5 different angles. Yeah, like how did all these people end up dying this gruesome death? Find out later after this.
It would probably outsell the straight Megaton Man Bizarre Heroes for sure, I think.
Well, everybody likes to see the destruction and the melee and the like. But yeah, this is an excellent piece. I can see people picking the book up for y'all's work, gentlemen. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Invulnerable.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
We had
thanks, guys. Thanks, Nick.
A lot of fun on it. Thank you.
You have bright futures.
Thank you for the opportunity. Definitely was it was hard work going back and forth and compromising, but I learned a lot. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity.
Well, thank you, guys. Nice meeting you, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir.
We'll still do a walkthrough video, or maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll cut this into something and just go with that. But thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks again.
I think we better actually maybe end this one before my computer self-destructs. I know some people have been waiting to get on for a while. I know my computer's about to die. So maybe we'll do this again halfway through the thing, and we
a signal boost of sorts.
Exactly. What are we up to? What's the tally? Timpani.
Here we go. Right now we are at $11,858, 39% funded, with 168 backers and 29 days to go.
All right.
We should have done that as like Rob Roddy or what's his name? Johnny Olson. Yeah, we're doing pretty good for the first day. Eli, you want to, if your computer's holding up, would you like to tell us a little bit about how opening day went to close this out?
I'm very proud of how open day went. I don't know if I'm choppy and you can understand me at all, but I mean, a lot of the Kickstarters that I usually do, if you got this to turn out the first day, that would mean that we would be fully funded already. So I don't know if you can understand me. How do I sound?
I'm breaking up here, but
yeah,
we're breaking up.
You're pretty choppy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We should maybe just end it for today, and then.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Sorry. Thank you all, guys.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for your
Good night,
support.
everybody. We'll meet again very soon. And watch the ticker. Watch that money and whatnot ticking up. That's what we're here for. Support your local comic book.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Eli. Bye-bye.
Yes, good night.
Bye.